fourth chapter, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. This chapter is also called Jnana Yoga, then Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. That means Jnana and Karma are leading to the ideal of renunciation. Renunciation in the Gita is different from what is usually understood as renunciation. It is not the physical renunciation of things or offices, but renunciation of an attitude, the attitude of possession, the attitude of an egoistic relationship with things. That is why it is both a sannyasa of knowledge and karma. It is a sannyasa fully in the sense of having a knowledge of the whole in place of the knowledge such as I, me, mine. In karma, which is already stated in the previous chapter, Karma Yoga, as a sacrifice. When we are sacrificing, we are also sacrificing our personal interests in favor of the entire world or the good of the world. Thus these terms are all revalued in this chapter. Imam vivasvade yogam proktavanahamavyam vivasvan manave praha manirikshagave bravi. This perennial unity of wisdom yoga did I declare to Vivasvan the son. Vivasvan taught it to Manu, the lawgiver, and Manu told it to Ikshvaku, the first king of the solar race. Evam parampara praptamimam rajarshriyo viduhu sakale neha mahada yogo nashta parantapa. Thus handed down the line in succession, this wisdom the king sages, Rajarshis understood. By great lapse of time here, however, this unity wisdom yoga came to be lost, O Parantapa. We have in this picture, the first thing shown is the sun. Sun is called Vivaswan, and from Vivaswan the first man came. When we say the first man, we are not taking in terms of evolution, such as the man ape and then the more reformed man. It's not that. We are speaking of the person who has exercised his mind to such a perfection that he could see the inner laws of the world, the law that was governing the world, the law that was governing life, the law that was governing society, so that he could state it in clear terms. Him we call the lawgiver Manu. in the sense that he was a perfect model of man. We may say that he is the first man. As a counterpart in the more Western world, not really Western, but the Middle East, we have the story of Moses with his 10 commandments. Whether it is Manu, India, or Moses, so who migrated from Egypt to Israel, we have the lawgiver. And then after the lawgiver is the king, because the law is to be enforced. The enforcement of the law belongs to the king. So it's a very perfectly stated case. First, the source of light, the source of life, light and life, and then the law of life, then the enforcement of law. Then we speak of Rajarshi. Lord Buddha was a king, a prince. He became a Rishi. We had many such Rajarshis. Vishwamitra was a Rajarshi. Janaka was a Rajarshi. And these Rajarshis, they have continued the tradition of the Rishis. The result was the establishment of a stream of great wisdom. The Ganges was flowing through millennium, non-stop. Like that, India also had its spiritual tradition going from a guru to his disciple, and the disciple in his turn becoming a guru, passing on the same wisdom to the next disciple. So one gives, the other receives, and one gives, the other receives. But in the the period of time, history was corrosive, and the result was somewhere the wisdom was lost. As Tagore says, in the dreary desert land, the river of wisdom that had flown into the dreary desert land got lost there. And so the Lord says it is now time to revive it, to restate it. So I shall restate this to you. Now a little more explanation. The sun is only a fiery mass. How can anyone teach wisdom to it? We say that the sun knew the wisdom and the sun gave the wisdom to the world. That may sound ridiculous. But the simple fact remains that life on earth came from the sun. Life is sustained by the solar energy. Our earth itself is a part of the sun, a fragment of the sun. So there is an inner homogeneity, even physically there is an inner homogeneity between the sun and the earth. And we have evolved from that. And these days, when sociobiology and such studies are tracing the origin of life and the evolution of life, we see that we have a history of millenniums behind us. So it is not all on a sudden we are evolving a law. There are man-made laws and there are natural laws. There is a law which belongs both to man and nature, that is the mathematical law. It is through that man can interpret nature and also can manipulate nature. And these are hidden secrets. The more you know it, the more we can cope with nature and our everyday life. And so all the credit goes to a person like Manu, who clearly observed nature and also man. These days people are not very charitable to Manu because he spoke disparagingly of Shudras or lower stratas of people. So all the blame of caste is laid on the shoulders of Manu, and there is a big decry of the merit of Manu and Manusmriti. That is not fair. If you look at him as a man who lived probably 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, who made a thorough observation of what he saw at that time and how he evolved a theory of life and society. We should give all credit to him for being very accurate in his observations, especially he had a notion of ecology of that time, which even now should surprise us. He states why man should not pollute a river, pollute any watery expanses, why he should not pollute the vegetable world, and why he should not pollute a path where people walk. And he even states, suppose a person sees human dirt and he walks over it or passes through that, then that person should go and wash his clothes and take a bath, and then alone he is clean, like that. So very meticulously he had studied human behavior, and he had given a code of conduct by which a person can become more and more evolved. He naturally places the Brahmana as a perfected being. But if you read the conditions that make a person a Brahmana, naturally you will worship him, you will adore him, because he is described as kind, compassionate, wise, profound in his learning, disciplined in his life. And also he gives a number of conditions by which a Brahmana falls away from the grace and he becomes even a worthless person. And all those are very clearly stated. A study of Manusmriti, even today it can be one of the finest books in it. At the same time, it gives us say laws, a certain ruling, so to say, of property ownership and the freedom of women, etc., which can look very disparaging now. And we do not know even those were his own writing, because if there was not one Manu, there were many Manus, and there were many interpolations into Manusmriti. When you look at the wisdom of the first Manu, everything which was said in the Manusmriti need not be his. Some of that could be clearly interpolations. Anyway, we see now these two aspects, the solar energies and its relationship with the earth, and then the first lawgiver. Then Nikshwagu, as a king, when we read his life, how noble a king he was, how he instituted a government which was perfectly democratic, even though it was ruled by a king, and he enjoined upon his heads to continue the law, and the king to be the custodian of the Dharma, the perpetuator of Dharma. Thus we see the whole system was for the good of men. And their life was basically of a yogi. They were doing karma, and that there was a detachment in them, a sense of renunciation in them. So you can say it was like a karma sannyasa. A sannyasa which leads a karma, which changes a karma into karma yoga. And that attitude was based on their wisdom, and therefore it was jnana which was leading to sannyasa. A karma that is appropriate of a sannyasi, a knowledge which leads to such kind of yoga. And then this great flow of wisdom which is broken. So the Lord says, now I will restate and give you to continue the same wisdom. But Arjuna becomes here skeptical. The Lord gives one more reason why he wanted to state this to Arjuna. Sa yevayam maya dedya yoga prokta puradanaha bhaktosi me sakha chedi rahasyam hedaduttamam. That very same ancient secret is being today declared to you by me, seeing that you are both my devotee and friend. As we go from chapter to chapter, we see the Lord was no more waiting for Arjuna to put questions. First he was really answering the questions of Arjuna. Then he started taking initiative on his own to teach his disciples. In the second chapter, Arjuna agreed that he was the disciple and he should be taught. Now, two conditions are stated here by Lord. First is that you have become very dear to me as a good friend, and you have full adoption. That attitude of adoption enables me to transfer to you some high truth. So this is a great requirement for the transference of wisdom from the Guru to the disciple. Their mind should be so much together. They should have a common interest, and there is no rivalry between them. Rivalry comes because of an ego. The Guru has his ego, the disciple has his ego. The Guru should enlarge his high consciousness so that he feels the entire world be one with him. Then his sympathy goes to all, and it is no more the sympathy of a person. The divine is permeating to all through this person who is called a guru. Thus his word becomes representative, his attitude becomes representative, and he has no personal ego of his own. And that enables the disciple also to forgo his ego and to merge with the teacher's attitude. And then there comes this osmosis which evens their knowledge, which make them understand each other and also the great truth. Aparam bhavado janma param janma vivasvadaha kadhamedadvijaniyam tvamahadav proktavanidhi. Arjuna said, your birth, it was posterior, and the birth of Vivaswan, that was anterior. How then have I to understand it, that you declared it in the beginning? So this is a very pertinent doubt, because Arjuna knew Sri Krishna as his own personal relative, and they were not very different in their age also. And how could Krishna say that he taught this to son? The son was already there even before Krishna was born. And Manu was there even before Krishna was born. Ikshvaku was a long time ago. Then how come that they all learned this from Sri Krishna? Now Krishna answers, Behuni me vedidani janmani davajarjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parandava. Krishna said, many are the lives that have gone past for me, as also for you, Arjuna. I am conscious of them all. You, Parandava, are not conscious of them. We have this theory of avatara, such as a fish, Matsya, Kurma, the tortoise, Varaha, the pig, Narasimha, the lion man, and not on the other things, such as the dwarf, the Vamana, then Parashurama, the Rama of the axe, and Sri Rama, Balarama, Sri Krishna, and the 10th is supposed to be Kalki, who comes as a big smoke, maybe like the mushroom smoke or the atom bomb. Thus there are the 10 versions given. This is one way of saying that the Lord had several incarnations of which she knew everything. And Arjuna also had several incarnations, but he had forgotten everything. The difference between an absolute consciousness and a relative consciousness is, even when we pass away from our wakeful to the dream, we forget what had happened an hour before, or even 5 minutes after our sleep. We have forgotten what we have been doing. And when we come away from our dream back to the wakeful life, how many transformations came to our consciousness, we have forgotten that also. and we cannot recall, we get only few glimpses. The things usually pass away from our consciousness, and thus there is an opacity. The Lord says, I have a transparency of vision, and you have an opacity of vision. Because of your opacity, you don't understand. With my transparency, I see. And tapasya is, in one way, it is to cut across this opacity, this opaqueness, so that the time segments such as the past, the present and the future, they do not give any trouble to us. Ajovi sannavyatma Pudanamesharopi san Prakritim swamadhishtaya Sambhavamyatma mayaya. Although I remain ever unborn, as a never diminishing self, while I am the Lord of creation too, grounded on my own nature, I assume being through the negative principle Maya of my own self. Since this word Maya is introduced here, there are philosophers like Ramanuja who think that it is not necessary to bring in theory of Maya as Shankara did. At the same time, when this verse is interpreted by Ramanuja, he also accepts the concept of Maya, but differently from what Shankara puts it. And for us, it is necessary to understand Maya both from the point of view of Shankara and also Ramanuja. Maya means Yama Samaya. That which is not is called Maya. If something is not and that it is seeming to be so, then it is called Maya. When we walk in the desert, we always see a lake before us. But when we are approaching, the lake also recedes. And it will go on receding like that. But it has all the appearance of water. Not only that it appears like water, if there is cloud in the sky, we can see a reflection of that cloud also in the apparent water there. Water is not there, the lake is not there, but you see even a reflection of the sky in the lake which is not there. It is so very deceptive. So should we say it is or it is not? We experience it with our eye, and if 10 people are there, all the 10 people see that. So there is no way of safeguarding us from an illusion by checking it with other people. All people experience it the same way. It's a collective illusion. And as all members of the species are equally affected by that, we may call it a generic illusion or a generic possibility of error. So Maya, if to be defined, you may call it a generic possibility of error. There can be a specific possibility of error and a generic possibility of error. When it is a specific possibility of error, it's called avidya. That is, you alone make the mistake and others do not mistake. But all people mistake the same way, then it is not of one individual, it is of the entire species. Then you say it is a generic possibility of error. For instance, all of us see the sky as blue. Although Einstein was a great physicist who knew all about physical world and its realities, he also saw it new. In physics, there is an index of refraction. Similarly, we have in Vedanta also an index of refraction. From the Paramartha, that means absolutely real, to Vyavahara, where it is transactionally actual or factual. From the transaction, when you go to illusion, the error becomes one step more. You can take an example of that. The usual example I give is, if you have a lump of sugar and a lump of table salt, your child sees both alike because they are both white, crystalline, and so the child says, here is sugar or here is salt. But the child's mother is more practical. She tastes both and she says, no, this is sugar and this is salt, table salt. Then the father comes, who is an analytical chemist. He says, well, what you call salt is not salt. It is sodium chloride. What you call sugar is not sugar, it is carbohydrate. Then on further analysis, you can come to various atoms like carbon atoms, oxygen atoms, hydrogen atoms, sodium atoms. And you further analyze, they can all be reduced to particles. And ultimately, they are particles of the same kind. It is simple energy, pure energy, so one wave. And so what you call sugar and what you call salt are ultimately one and the same energy. Then we come to what the child said. The child said it's both one. Father says both are one. But mother says, whatever you say, I will not put salt into my tea. I will not put sugar into my curry. And this has a transactional verity. So that means in an ultimate parama artha, meaning everything is the same. So it is Brahman. When it is Brahman? In the parama artha, in the ultimate meaning. From that, there is a first refraction. We come to the transactional empirical world, where things look different because of the properties of our senses. And there it is not paramartha, it is yadhavat artha. It gives a meaning as it is. And that yadhartha is not paramartha. In yadhartha, one is salt and the other is sugar. And to mistake that is a pratibhasa. You are misled by appearance. And that pratibhasa is a real mistake. It's an illusion. So paramartha, vyavahara, pratibhasa. Three refractions. This is called the index of the Maya. And a person who knows whether he is discussing an ultimate reality, or he is dealing with a thing in a specific context, or he is mistaking a thing because of an appearance, then he knows all the three aspects. That means he is conversant with the possibility of error, and thus he knows what Maya is. And such kind of a Maya is inherent in the total reality. That possibility is there. So here Shankara says it's a negative factor. The absolute has a negative factor. And that is called the Maya, which is and which is not. Sadasat vilakshana. It's called it is and it is not. Sat asat vilakshana. Sat means it is, asat means it is not. So this sadasat vilakshana, how does it appear to us? Nama Rupa, as name and form. Karya or karana karya, or rather karya karana, because we see as effect. From the effect we deduce the cause. We do not see the cause, we see only the effect. From the effect we deduce the cause. So nama rupa karya karana. Then we see also as the karta and the karma. A certain action that is performed by someone who is initiating that action or doing that action. And thus it becomes a sankhada again of all this, where within the framework of time and space, kala and desha. So for Maya to operate, this should be minimum there. There has to be the frame of time and space, and within the time of space there should be the breaking up of one into many, and that many are of different forms, so that one form is different from another form, and each different form has a name, it carries with it a label, and therefore one form is distinguished from another form. And there comes a subject-object duality, or the knower and the known. And because of the duality of the subject and the object, there is the pramada, the subjective consciousness, who has transformed some of his own consciousness into the modality of a thing with a name and a form. It is called the Pramadra Chaitanya. And to hold that to be valid in a transactional system, he also maintains a pramana, a law of validity. So this is the complex system called Maya according to Shankara. Now Ramanuja says, Maya should be understood not as anything unreal, but as a vibhuti. If you take an orange, it has a spherical form, it has a beautiful golden color, it has sweet juice, it has a fragrance, and all these are not inhering in any abstraction. These are all real, and these constitute an orange. So the orange and the orangeness are not two separate things. There is no need to abstract it. The solid, enjoyable aspect of the orange is a reality, and so this should be considered as a vibhuti. Vibhuti here means a bhuti, a coming into being, which is vishesha, visheshena. So in a specific way, things are manifesting. Thus the divine or the absolute, what we call Brahman, is not devoid of qualities as Shankara thinks, but it has all the qualities that we see here, and that is the special vibhuti, which is called a yoga maya of the Lord. So Maya is not there anything which is reproachable, which is to be discarded. It is to be accepted as valid and divine as the Lord. So the Lord who is manifesting means he is manifesting in this form and in this name with all these qualities, and therefore there is nothing to fight shy of it, and it is adorable. In every atom, in every living being, the Lord dwells as Antaryami and Amrita. Antaryami means the indwelling Lord, Amrita is the immortal self. So the immortality of the Lord, the imperishability of it should be seen in and through everything perishable. That perishability itself is wholly a process which the Lord is manifesting, and so it is no defect. The transiency of it is no defect. It is only part of the Vibhuti, because the Lord is capable of producing sense of wonder. To show, to withdraw, all these are in His ability. So there is nothing to be ashamed of it. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata apyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. Whenever there comes to be laxity in regard to right life, dharma, O Bharata, Arjuna, and Rome coming to assert itself, then I bring about the creation of myself. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya ca dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To protect those who are good and to destroy evildoers for establishing righteousness, I assume being age by age. Also, we have given here some of the traditional symbols such as the fish, the tortoise, the pig, etc. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is no reference to Dashavadara. He says, I am the sun, I am the light of the sun, I am the light of the moon, I am the kingliness in a king, I am sapidity in water, I am the integrity of earth. He says all this, but he does not say I am the fish, I am Malsya, I am Kurma, I am Varaha. He does not say. But we get all this in the other legends. At every time there is a decline of Dharma, the Lord reappears to mend it. But Dharma is not to be understood in a relative sense, but in a higher and supreme sense. The absolute aspect of Dharma is called Upanishad Dharma. The Upanishad Dharma is looking for that which supports everything to be what it is. Then this is seen yesterday, today and tomorrow also it will be there. This book, I was reading from it yesterday, and now today and tomorrow also I can read from it. There is an irrefutable existence to it. It's called the Satness, the Satya. And when I look at each page, every sentence is making sense to me. My awareness becomes changed according to the purport of whatever is written here. That means whatever is existing, that existence makes itself known. And it can be perceived with consciousness, and it can be changed into consciousness. And when you say, I know it, it is because your consciousness has become that, of those properties. And in all this, you see value. Thus, there is a basic substance, there is a basic awareness, and there is a basic value. This is what we call Satchidananda. And this Satchidananda is behind all experiences. And therefore, it is that Satchidananda or that Brahman that supports everything. And hence, the Upanishad Dharma is saying this fundamental basic substratum of things on which forms and their meanings are all attributed or all posited. And if there is any decay to that, decay here in the sense that when you mistake the real for the unreal, that is the only decay possible there. The suchness does not live. When you are mistaking a rope for a snake, nothing is happening to the rope. The rope is not decayed, it is not destroyed. Only for the time being, its presence is ablated with the knowledge of the snake. So only the removal of that ignorance is required. Thus, the Lord that is re-establishing here is not to be seen as a person coming and interfering, but as true wisdom prevailing. And that true wisdom is prevailing in everybody's mind. The person for a little while he mistakes, and after that he corrects his mistakes. And this is the re-establishment of the Dharma in the higher sense of that term. Not that in the historical period a certain person comes, then he comes with a big sword and he punishes everyone, and then asks everyone to sit in their place like a headmaster. And that is how we understand. And so there are many people who want to become chastisers of this world, who corrects everything, like a Superman coming. I'm thinking of an avatar is like a Superman coming, of Nietzsche. And Hitler thought he was that Superman to correct the world. And now, say, a Secretary of State may say that he is the trustee and custodian of the world's peace and things like that. These are all kind of megalomania. But that is not what we call here the re-establishment of Dharma. When truth prevails, there is a re-establishment of Dharma. So that is important to know. Otherwise, we will make a philosophy for the megalomaniacs. And here it is said, Sambhavami yuge yuge. Avataran is one thing and Sambhava is another thing. Avataran means from above you are descending like that. And for that you have to think of a God above. And that is only prophetic religions, they think that the God is sitting above. The Most High God, they say. Hindus never say the Most High God. For them, God is an here and now reality. So it is a Sambhava. It happens here, right here. From among you, there comes the torch bearer, the wisdom revelation. The wisdom is revealed to you here. So you don't have to think that it ascends from above as a special grace. Janmakarmajame divyamevamyo yo vetti tattvadaha tektva deham punarjanma naidi mameti sorjuna. He who understands this divine nature of my birth and work consistently with the basic principles on leaving this body, he does not attain to repeated birth, but only comes to me, O Arjuna. Here the word me when we take it in a very personal sense of the Lord as a person, Krishna as a person, and say that you die when you die, and if you are a wise person that you go to Him, there is really no coming and there is no going. And there is no I and there is no He. But these are all terms which we use for convenience. And so when Krishna says I, to understand it, one has to meditate on one's own I consciousness. And when that I consciousness, which we see here, has belonged to the body, is not a tattva, or it is not the tat padartha, that which is universal, but it is the tom padartha, which is a personal egoistic concept. When we release our consciousness from that personal egoistic consciousness, and it is identified with what we call that, then alone we come to realize the dictum tat tvam asi. The Lord says tat tvam asi, or say the teacher, the Guru says tat tvam asi. The in say tat and tvam, there are two aspects. The tvam padartha is where the individuated beings are there. The tat is where the universal aspect is. So from the tat padartha of the individuated ego consciousness, we release our consciousness so that we feel one with the Supreme. Then you can say that you have gone to the bigger I. In Earthachan also we read it, that if I feel like an ego, let me feel that everything is me, and not that I am someone in a person. Vidaraga paya krodha manmaya mamupasridaha bhagavad jnanadavasa buddha matbhava magadaha. Rid of attachment, fear and anger, and wholly filled by me alone and surrendering to me, many who have been purified by the discipline of wisdom have entered into my being. The first qualification is Vidaraga Bhaya Krodha. Then second is Manmayam Mamupasritaha Bhagavad Jnanatapasa Buddha Madbhava Magadaha. What is important is that your bhava becomes my bhava. What is the Lord's bhava? The Lord's bhava was already mentioned earlier. Whatever is seen here and whatever is not seen, if all these are to be understood as one and the same reality, that is his bhava, the known and the unknown. So if you have also to feel that everything known and everything unknown are also you, there is a blockage for such kind of an understanding. That blockage is caused by raga. You have an attachment. So my child, my son, my daughter, my home, my family, my country, my people. There is a coloration in it. And this coloration causes a segmentation of you from other groups. Thus the world for you is a checkered one with so many small groups, and you belong to one group. Therefore you cannot feel identity with all. A person who has become a father of his own son, he may become compassionate and kind to all other children. But when he puts his son into his lap and another child into the lap, he knows the difference, that this is not my son. And when he puts, so this is my son. So that is a coloration. And it would take A great discipline to efface away that coloration, that raga, that is attachment. Then there is also bhaya, raga, there is bhaya, fear for the other. There is always a need for security. We work, we earn, we save, we make contracts, all for this one reason of security. A sannyasin, his security, his trust is only in the Lord. He does not think that he will come to disaster if he does not keep a saving or a security, because his security is the total self. And that bhaya inhibits him. So this is again to qualify oneself for this higher attitude. One has to drop his bhaya, his fear. And the dropping of that fear, it's again not so easy. There comes krodha. Krodha is anger, and that is a test to see how much attachment is there, how much fear is there. And where there is fear, you are on the defense, and you are not really afraid of the opponent, but you are also angry with the opponent. Thus you get into states of polarization. And not to have polarization, again there should not be the other. And not to have the other, you should be identified with the Supreme. Then you say, Madbhava Magadaha, you have come to my own bhava. Ye yadha mam prabadyante tam tadhaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartande manushya partha sarvashaha. As each chooses to approach me, even accordingly do I have regard for him. My very path it is, O Bharata, that all men do tread from every possible approach. This is the most Catholic universal teaching which we find in the Gita. After all, what is described here as the Lord is light of consciousness. Your understanding is an aspect of that light of consciousness. So if you understand the Lord, just a deity here, a protective deity, then it appears like that. If you think it is that overwhelming life which is everywhere, it is that. And thus there is, I approach, I here means the absolute, approach everything according to their understanding. So to have a higher understanding of me, or a higher acceptance of me, you have to change your way of looking at me. And in whichever way he is sought, he appears and he gives his grace that way. So one man thinks of him as Allah, another as Dharma. So the man who says Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then to him the Lord appears as Rahman and Rahim. And the other who says Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, he appears as Dharma, he appears as Sangha, he appears as the Dharma. So there is no path where you do not meet him. And even a person who is a rational, a free thinker, for the free thinker, he needs a criterion by which he can measure his truth. And from where does he find that criteria? It is again the same, which is seen as Buddha by one person, Allah by another person, and for the rationalist, to him it is the criterion of truth. Consistency or logical consistency or mathematical logic is for him the supreme. So you cannot limit, you cannot name it. Kamchanda karmanam siddhim yajante iha devadaha kshipram hi manushe loge siddhir bhavati karmaja. Desiring the benefits coming from actions and thus sacrificing to the gods, quick indeed are the results born of works in the world of men. There is one advantage to us, we human beings in this body, mind and the senses. This is a wonderful instrument through which you can make an observation of the whole setup to which you belong, and also you can study the principles that guide this organism and the other organisms, and what leads us to an experiencing of consistent happiness, what distracts from us, the soundness of the system. Everything can be easily understood within the frame of reference of a human life, and therefore it may be said that this, by adopting karma with full understanding in this world, that makes it easier for our realization. Chadruvarnyam maya srishtam gunakharma vibhagasah tasya kartaram avimam mithyakartaram avyayam. The fourfold color grades, varnyas, were created by myself on the basis of innate disposition, guna, and the vocation, karma, that accorded with each. Know me to be the maker of such, as also to be its undoer, unexpended. This is a very controversial verse. Modern educated India, which has become more conscious of the rights of men, says something which is very shameful, that at least 3/4 of the people, the majority of the people who are condemned as belonging to the working class people, the proletarians, as Shudras. And historically, for some centuries, all the prerogative positions were held by the priestly classes, and somehow the names Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra became social groupings, and there is a tirade against such kind of a social classification, and those who want to reform it, they attribute this kind of social injustice to books which gave sanction to Varnas, Shadru Varnas, 4 Varnas. How can there be classification among human beings? Man is man. Why should he not be recognized just as man? But in this, the Lord does not say that he has fixed any varna for a person and he should remain in that varna. If a person is born as a Shudra, it is not said that he should now become a Brahmana, and it also does not vouchsafe that a Brahmana will now become a Shudra. Then the whole thing is to be understood as psychological types. Jung, in his study of psychological types, he makes two main divisions, the extroverts and the introverts. And of the extroverts, he again makes a division of the extrovert, the extrovert, introvert. Similarly, the introvert, extrovert, and the introvert, introvert. There are 4 divisions. That is one approach. There can be many approaches. In the present case, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are 3 gunas taken of nature. And this is Prakriti or nature, which is reflecting the pure consciousness that comes from the spirit or Brahman. And the quality of the pure spirit is Sat, Chit, Ananda. So Sat, Chit and Ananda are all highly venerated values, whereas these triple gunas are very tricky, and these are coming from both sides. And the Satchidananda, when they are reflected into this mirror of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, there comes various kinds of distortions, and we should understand that distortion properly. We take here in terms of values. The highest value a person can think of is freedom. We are in the shackles of this body. There is an imprisoned splendor of our consciousness or the spirit in the body, and to release from it, to effect release from it, moksha to it, that is freedom. So the highest value is marked here as a white circle for freedom, and there is a dark circle here. The opposite of it, what is binding, is necessity. When a person has a body, he feels necessity to feed it. Even if you have not a good place to sleep, if you don't have protective clothes, still you can live if you are fed. There is no food, no drink. Difficult. There was a time when I was a wandering mendicant. I was wandering for days and days, sometimes without food. And when you come to a state where you cannot sustain even for another day without food, then you lose all your resource. The dignity of yourself you forget. Because there is this terrible hunger in you, burning like a flame, and you forget all the dignity. I remember days when I have stood before tea shops, where people inside are sitting and they are sipping hot tea, and it is raining, there is cold and hunger, and I stand outside, wishfully looking into the tea shop, thinking that some kind person may know my need and may come out and offer me a cup of tea. At that time, all that you think in this world is one cup of tea. And that cup of tea can make all the difference to you. Once I was sitting in one side of the road and I couldn't move. And on the opposite side, I saw a shop where a man looked kindly. I thought if I moved from this side of the road to the other side and somehow catch his attention, he may offer me a cup of tea. But 3 days I had no food. I had only water from the pipe. So with great difficulty I was trying to move. But it's a public road. There was cars and buses and trucks flying. When I reached almost the middle, I collapsed. A truck came and just stood over me. And it pulled its brake in such time that it didn't hit me, but I was almost lying underneath that. I couldn't reach that place. So a person who came in a rickshaw from the opposite direction, he also stopped seeing me falling, and the truck stopping. Then of course others came. And I was picked up, and he recognized me for some reason. And then I was taken to a place, and somebody brought hot kanji water and dropped that into my mouth. I still remember how when each drop of water was finding its way through my gullet, life energy was coming. But just like death was pushed back, life was coming. Such is the claim of this food on earth. So when you are crippled with hunger, then you are lost. That is given here as the darkest of all. The food. Freedom. Food. In English both begins with an F. So you are caught between the first F and the last F. Freedom and food. And you are willing to barter some of your freedom. You see, what I did was, this hunger was so much one day, I very much wanted a breakfast, at any cost. I would have done anything to get a breakfast. It was in Bangalore. I saw a line of people standing in queue. I asked someone what it was. They said they are all going to be recruits in the Air Force. So my question was, will they give a breakfast? They said yes. So you will get a breakfast as soon as you enter that. So I thought I'll get in and take a breakfast and then give some excuse and go away. So I got into the line and I was given the breakfast. But along with the breakfast, I was also given a form to fill up. And then this is like getting into a valve. You cannot return. From there, you are led to the next room, where is a medical officer who examines you. Then you are taken to a truck, and then I ended up in the army quarters. And then I was told, your name is here after 47305. So I became a number and no more a person. And I get food, but I have no freedom to move. Then I saw people who are like me, who are caught in that trap, sitting and crying that night. Even people like, say, a brother of Liaquat Khan, who later became Prime Minister of Pakistan, he was also in that group. He was also sitting and crying. And when you cry like that, when you melt in sorrow, shoka, you are called a Shudra. Shudra is to have Shogana Dravaditi, when you become melt with sorrow, you are a Shudra. Not that you are born of some woman, you are born of a certain family. If you are so much assailed by sorrow, then you are a Shudra. And think of our world. From prime ministers and presidents to ordinary people, 90% of people are Shudras. They are all caught up, not exactly of hunger, some hunger. It may be hunger for power, hunger for security, hunger for food. and we are all caught in that. And the sannyasi is one who says, death or no death, I am not going to give myself to anyone. I will have absolute freedom. So when you have that freedom, you are in the white circle. When you have that sorrow, you are in the black circle. But between that there are many gradations. And those 4 gradations are given here, and which corresponds also to the 3 gunas there, the sattva, rajas and the tamas. When the sattva guna predominates, you are called a brahmana, because he reduces the necessity of life. And he meets his necessity by bartering minimum possible amount of his freedom. He mostly secures his freedom, but with a very minimal expense of his freedom, he gains a livelihood. He learns mantras, he makes an offering. He wants only a little rice and little food, and he always gets that. The Kshatriya, it is not sattva which is dominating him, but rajas. Between rajas and sattva, there is a kind of a sharing, and thus he is willing to sacrifice his life, and he is moved by high motivations. Then the Vaishya is one who is calculative. There is rajas in him and tamas in him, and he is always afraid of insecurity, and he can keep the balance only by working hard and manipulate. Thus, these are the gradations given. The most important thing here is in this, the second half of the verse. The first half, the Lord says, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagasha. Maya srishtam. I created this. But in the immediate second half he says, Tasya kartaram avyamam vitya kartaram avyayam. You should know me as the non-author of it. That means it is entirely up to you to change your status, to change your varna. The coloration in you, if now you feel that you are a Vaishya, it is entirely up to you to change it by changing the guna and changing the karma. You can promote yourself to a Brahmana. Who stops you? Nobody needs a license to become a Brahmana. Nobody needs a license to become a sannyasi. It is entirely up to you. So why do you fight people? Why do you accuse someone saying, oh, those people are dominating one another? Nobody dominates if you know how to exercise your own discretion, your own wisdom, your own knowledge. And of course there can be misunderstanding. There was one Mukherjee who wrote in the Calcutta Review something. So he wrote a letter to Mahatma Ji asking about Sri Narayana Guru, saying that the Guru is living better than any Brahmana. Should be considered a Brahmana or a Shudra? Mahatma Gandhi wrote, I know Sri Narayana Gurudeva, he is a great Sanskrit scholar, but his Sanskrit scholarship does not take him out of his Shudrahood. He was born as a Shudra, so he will remain as a Shudra during this lifetime. Next time he may be born as a Brahmana. Something to that effect. And I verified this again by looking into Mahatma Gandhi's 20 volumes now presented by the Navajivan Trust. So Mahatma Ji had that kind of a faith, that of a belief. But if you understand Gita in its proper sense, it does not say that nobody's varna is fixed like that. You can change it, and afterwards it is Guna, karma, viphagasha, it is here itself clearly stated. With the guna, with the quality of your life, karma, with your actions, that should decide whether you are of this varna or that varna. Difficult to have an unprejudicial view of such things. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spruha idimam yo vijanadi karma firna sabathyade. I am not affected by work, nor have I any interest in the benefit of work. He who understands me in this manner comes no more under the bondage of work. So there is also a way of completely transcending all these colorations, that is, to efface the color of your mind by knowing the Absolute who does not belong to anything. एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतम्. That very kind of work that the ancients performed, after knowing in this manner, even that work therefore do you also, as we performed by ancients, desiring emancipation in times more ancient. Then the difficult part of karma is stated here. Kim karma kima karmedi kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshami yajnatva mokshase shubhat. On what is action and what is inaction, even intelligent men here are confused. I shall indicate you that action, on knowing which you will be emancipated from evil. So this is very difficult to know what is karma, what is non-karma. We have these three possibilities. One is to act spontaneously, and the other is not to act. And the third possibility is to engage in a perverted action. So there is karma, there is akarma, and there is vikarma. A fourth one is recommended as karma yoga. That is when you do action without a benefit motive. Then that is what Mahatmaji called the anasakti yoga, where karma is without asakti. Karmanyo hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gadihi. The entire Mahabharata can be a vyakhyana, an interpretation of what is stated here as gahana karmano gadi. How exactly is the crooked course of karma? Very difficult for anyone to say. We have also the 1001 Tales of the Arabian Nights. When you read and you go from one story to another story, the karma is taking you through such kind of unexpected move. We have the word in Malayalam, Deivam, for Ishvara, God. But Devam in Sanskrit means Vidhi. Vidhi means fate. The whole of Mahabharata is a story of fate and how there are the two banks, the tragic and the comic. Some force is leading you towards the tragic and the same force is pushing you towards the comic. Between tragedy and comedy, your life is moving like that of the big fish which is going upstream, sometimes touching the right bank and sometimes the left bank. And this unpredictable course of life itself is called Daivam, fate. And it is also karma. When it is beneficial, we said providential. When it is not beneficial, we say it is fate. Actually, fate and God and fate and grace, they are not different. When you understand it and you appreciate it, you call grace. Suppose there is a crash of a plane, all people are killed, and one person escapes. Then you say, the people who belong to that person, they say, look at the mercy of God, and he is saved. What about the people whose relatives are all killed in it? They say it's all fate. So one and the same thing. It's both fate and it is providential. So it's very difficult. Karmanya karmaya pached akarmani jakarmaya sabuddhiman manusheshu sayuktaha krishna karma krit. One who is able to see action in inaction and inaction in action. He among men is intelligent. He is one of unitive attitude yogi, while still engaged in every possible kind of work. The person sees that what happened last moment is necessitating this moment, and that is necessitating the next moment. He does not think that he is doing any karma. He is saying akarma. But in that akarma, he also sees karma. He says, now I have to move this side, I have to do this. As a doctor goes to the hospital, then to the emergency ward, somebody is brought. He was not expecting that, he did not want that, but it is in the nature of things. This person was brought, and then he has to attend on it. And then there is a series of actions going on. But all the time, he knows these are imperatives of life. I am here, and therefore these things are happening. And that if he is a wise person, he knows that this is no action at all. And there is nothing. Like things which are happening in the dream, in the transactional world also a kind of a dream is unfolding and it is passing on. Thus he is unaffected. He remains unconcerned. But he is also very responsible. He keeps himself very accurate in all the things which are to be done within that frame of work of what we may call a duty. In the deeper sense, there is no duty. But in the external sense, there is duty. Thus, there is karma seen in akarma, and akarma is seen in karma. And such a person is a yogi. Karmanya karmaya pashed akarmani jakarmaya sabuddhiman manusheshu sayuktaha krishna karma krit. Yasya sarve samarambah kama sankalpa varjidaha jnanagni dakta karmanam tamahu pandidam buddhaha. So that kind of an attitude is also results in sannyasa. When you call this chapter Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga that is spoken of here is a knowledge which is burning away all the dross of karma, and where you become established in the self. So it is said, that man whose works are all devoid of desire and willful motive, whose impulse of action has been reduced to nothing in the fire of wisdom. He is recognized as a knowing person, Pandita, by the wise. So only such a person can be called a Pandita when his impulse to act for a benefit motive is burned away with universal knowledge, and thus his interest becomes altruistic. त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः. Relinquishing attachment for the benefit of work, ever happy and independent. Though such a man be engaged in work, he in principle does nothing at all. Such a person who is a yogi, whose motives are all burned away, but he is also seen always working and is never at rest, but he is not doing anything for himself. Here we have seen for Shri we'll come to this verse. It is a lotus leaf with a drop of water on it. Underneath is also water, but it is not wet. Satisfied with यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टो द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समः सिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न विमुच्यते. Satisfied with chance gains, unaffected by conflicting pairs of interest, non-competitive, remaining the same in gain or no gain, he remains unbound in spite of having been active. Gadasangasya muktasya jnanavastirachetasah yajñāyācarada karma samagram pravidiyate. In the case of those, or case of one whose attachments are gone, who has gained freedom, whose spiritual being has been founded in wisdom, his works having a sacrificial character only become wholly dissolved. Brahmarpanam Brahmahaver Brahmatno Brahmanahudam Brahmaiva tena gandavyam Brahma karma samadhina. For him, the Absolute is the act of offering. The Absolute is the substance offered into the Absolute, which is the fire offered by him, the Absolute. The end to be reached to him, being even the Absolute, by means of his peace, supreme of absolutist action. We have shown here a fire which should have been only in the sacrificial pit, but we see that very fire into which everything is offered is also the sacrifice. Brahmarpanam, so that arpanam, that is the Absolute. Brahma havis, this havis which is offered into it, that is the Absolute. Brahmatno, the fire which is to receive it, That is also the absolute. Brahmana Hudam. That burning is also the absolute. Brahmaiva tena gandavyam Brahma karma samadhina. Thus, the whole process is absolute. For him, the absolute is the act of offering. The absolute is the substance offered into the absolute, which is the fire offered by him, the absolute. The end to be reached by him, being even the absolute, by means of his peace supreme of absolutist action. Devamevaapare yajñam yoginaha paryupasade brahmotmavavare yajñam yajñenaivopajuhvadi. As offering to the gods of the Vedas is the nature of the sacrifice of some yogi, men of unitive discipline. Others offer sacrifice into the fire of the Absolute by sacrifice itself. Here, Nataraj Guru elaborates on this and says, any man who has not attained full enlightenment is bound to offer a sacrifice according to his own lights regarding higher values or ideals. To ask any man to do better than what he can would be neither possible nor fair. Indra, Varuna and other gods of the Vedas are personifications of certain higher or idealized human values. They are shining ones who are immortal and are supposed to live with eyes that never shut in the world of the intelligibles, as Plotinus would put it. Similar ideas are familiar in Plato's writing. All that we are to recognize here is that as between the sacrificer and the gods there is a difference of value in a certain scale of values which is natural for a human being to have in his mind when he thinks of his own spiritual progress. The difference therefore between the higher and lower values of this scale reaching from the human to the divine must imply some sort of purificatory element, however feeble it might be. Each sacrifice is good as far as it goes and better than non-sacrifice. When, however, a sacrifice is performed with the full implications of absolute Godhead in the mind of the sacrificer, then progress may be said to be generated to the maximum. Under the aegis of a supremely absolutist form of sacrifice, all other sacrifices gain a status and thus a purificatory potency. And then various kinds of modes of sacrifices which were prevalent in India are mentioned in the rest of the chapter, which we'll take tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vachishyate Om Shanti